Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tackling Sport podcast. It's Daniel Hussey here, joined alongside me as always by my brother Sean.
How's it going?
Sean, I tried my best to stay upbeat there. Was that a pretty good intro? It's a tough night for tough night for us Arsenal fans. But join us on the podcast for Premier League fan predictions and to react to the Europa League. Firstly, is Chelsea fan. You might have heard him laughing there in the background. Connor Swords. Connor, welcome to the podcast.
Good evening. Good to be here again, Daniel. I won't try and rub it in too much because obviously I'm reveling in yesterday's fantastic performance, and I'm after sitting through that, and I'm not even an Arsenal fan, and that was painful to watch. So I do feel for you guys.
Listen, that's much appreciated, and I'm delighted to welcome Arsenal fan and Tackling Sport royalty. He was on the first ever Premier League fan predictions back in the day. Cian Hannigan. Cian, I wish we could be talking under more pleasant circumstances.
Yeah, it's a shame. I would have liked to have a nice, buzz coming onto this podcast here today, but it's another tough day at the office being an Arsenal fan. I don't even know where to go from here. I kind of lost for words, and the whole performance, one shot on target. You're pushing to get into the European final here. It was really, really poor on the day, and I think everybody has to start taking a long hard look at themselves, from the manager down to every single player. No one is good enough there today, and it's just another devastating day to be an Arsenal fan. Let down as always. Where do we go from here now? No European football next year. People say it could be a blessing. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. But I don't know. It's a long way back to the top, I think.
Yeah, we got a comment there, James, the Spurs fan saying Arteta in and rub it in, Connor. I suppose, Connor, as a neutral, maybe watching the game, I know you texted me during the game saying you want to nearly retract your Callum Chambers comments because Bellerin was so brutal. Coming across near the end. But how did you sum up that performance?
Yeah, I actually wrote down there. I was like, Bellerin's evolved in my eyes now. He's gone from shit to fucking shit. It's just so bad altogether. I was talking to Sean off air there, but I was saying the first half, I've never seen a more passive first half from a team that needed a goal. Just one goal. And I didn't even know the shot came just until Cian just said it there. But one shot on target is just chronic. When you just need one goal, it wasn't like it was the biggest uphill battle. That Villarreal team are crap. If we're being fair, they're man to man, that's a pretty poor team. I thought the keeper looked suspect on the very few shots that he had to deal with. Just very bad from Arsenal altogether. I didn't even really like some of the I was even talking to you during the game. Some of the changes were a bit so I didn't really get taking Aubameyang off. When you're looking for a goal, if you're going to bring on Nketiah, I'd rather just have a tired Aubameyang on the pitch than a fully fit Edward Nketiah. It was just a bad game. Arsenal hit the post. They were a bit unlucky, but you can't really say they went for it. You know what I mean? I thought Villarreal did what they were supposed to do, and I thought Arsenal kind of really let themselves down. And like Sean was saying, it was like they were playing in front of a lot of fans booing them. It didn't look like there was anyone there who was driving on to win the game. Bar maybe Emile Smith-Rowe. I thought he played pretty well. And defensively, I thought Pablo Mari, funnily enough, actually had a good game, even though I don't rate him very highly. But outside of that, I thought it was shocking from Arsenal, really. It was a very bad game.
Yeah, Sean, on the game first, your thoughts on particularly that first half performance, just seeing Arteta set up for a 0 at half-time and take it from there?
Well, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know what's going on anymore. It's hard to recognise things, but it's just, I don't know. It's bizarre. Bizarre from start to finish. I think the manager is a major problem. Absolutely. I'd love to see what someone like Thomas Tuchel would do with these players, though, because I think the players, are absolutely appalling. They don't look like they know how to win a game. I think there's loads of times there where the Villarreal players are just so clever. They just rolled around on the ground, won a free, and the only thing I can compare it to is a couple of times you might see, and maybe not Stephen Kenny's side, but when you see League of Ireland teams play in Europe and the opposition just go that extra mile, they'll dive on the ground, they'll hurt their ankle, and a lot of the time the League of Ireland players are too honest for that. I just think the Arsenal players, they just don't know what they're doing. It's like they're out of their depth. So many times they could have just won a free kick, to kill the game or to even put in the box. But I don't know. It's I think it's been coming though. It's kind of I think it's just bizarre. Football without fans anyway, and it seemed like it was benefiting Arsenal. I think it's kind of suited them this year because they can just get away with so many mid-table performances. I said a few weeks ago I think Arteta would have been sacked with fans, and I think maybe Frank would have been kept with fans at Chelsea, just the affiliation and love they have for Frank. And yeah, that's, you know, if there was fans in the stadium, they would have voted with their feet. He'd be gone by now. So it's hard to talk any more about it, you know.
Yeah, Cian, maybe just on that point there in terms of the fans of Mikel Arteta going forward, like, you know, it definitely was a defining night in terms of, like, I do think the club are still going to back him. I'd expect him to be there starting next season, but he's definitely lost a good half of the fan base, and probably, you know, rightly so based on the last few performances. And again, we've all been putting our eggs in the Europa League basket, but it seemed to obviously falling apart tonight.
Yeah, well, like, sure, you know, everyone knows I'm as big Arteta fan as you can get, really. It's getting harder and harder to defend him, but I still, like, I do worry for him, like, going forward now. I think the Cronkies are under massive pressure to show ambition. The fans are on their case. They might see it as an opportunity to get rid of Arteta and, you know, show that, like, oh, we are ambitious, to kind of make a bit of a statement and take the pressure off them. Like I think what people are saying about Aubameyang coming off 10 minutes ago, he's admitted himself he's not 100% fit. I think that's the reason he came off there. Well, there you go. There's another
yeah, we got a commentator for Mikel Arteta, just for the podcast listeners, saying I took Alba off with 10 minutes to go because I'm crazy. So there you go.
He's a good man. Good man. Mikel going on this podcast straight away instead of going to Sky or BT. That shows the loyalty.
Yeah, faces the music, in fairness to him.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of players tonight that really, like, you have to look, like, you know, take a look at themselves. Like, I think Odegaard was really, really poor. As a player, you know, from Madrid, you think you're going to get a big game player. Like, he really just didn't turn up tonight. Same applies to Thomas Partey. You know, spent a lot of money on him. Really, really, really poor tonight. It's just so frustrating to see. Like, even when you have these kind of big names coming in, they just can't seem to, you know, get into any kind of rhythm or any kind of form for us. And I know, like, it's just between them. Like, I mean, the youngsters we have coming through are essentially all we have going for us, the likes of Martinelli and Saka and Smith Rowe. Like, I mean, if we hadn't got them, like, God knows where we'd be. They carried us through, like, a dreadful season, and honestly, I wouldn't want to think about where we'd be without them. As I said, I do think Arteta's under massive pressure now. I think, like, this may be the end of his job, and not that I would like it. I give him another season, see how we go. Because I've seen some things. I think, you know, it's the league form has always been really poor, and Europe hasn't been good enough. I think he's getting rid of a lot of, like, deadwood. You think you know, people talk him up as if he's really got a lot of potential. I could see him going on elsewhere and doing a really, really good job, and people will look back and be like, oh, why did Arsenal let him go? Joke of a club letting him go with such a good manager. I honestly believe that would happen if he left, which is why I'd like to give him a bit more time. Call me crazy, but that's where I'm at. And yeah, I just kind of want to see the back of the season now and just, you know, see who we can get into somewhere, and hopefully next season can be a bit more positive.
It's the hope that kills you, Keane, but fair play to being loyal. Connor, just before I bring you in, Sean, I just want to, Sean, give maybe the listeners and people that aren't Arsenal fans how the club's kind of been run into the ground, a phrase you used just before we came on air there, in terms of the amount of players we've sold, how we've done in our transfer business, and where does this all stem from? Because in fairness to Mikel Arteta, while he may be the wrong man for the job right now, we've shown from our two previous managers, Emre in the last couple of years of Wenger, that this club isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I think maybe to Wenger's kind of detriment and to his credit, I think he was the glue that was probably keeping the face of it together. Even just the identity of the club, the kind of the history and the tradition and the class that the club is known for. But it's just, you know, he was a part of letting players run down contracts, you know, letting players run the dressing room, you know, giving, you know, the likes of Ozil, Sanchez, Ramsey, they've all gone for absolute pennies. They've gone for nothing. You know, and the way it's all been handled is just, you know, I think if it happened in any other big club, it wouldn't be tolerated. I think Arsenal, you know, I was talking to someone earlier, Man City and Chelsea are run by people who want to win. They're not there to make money. That, you know, that's very clear. Arsenal is run, Liverpool, Man United have been run in the last 10 years to make money. The difference is Manchester United, Liverpool have had a once in a generation, if you like, manager that's led it all. United have kind of been in and out, but, you know, they seem to be coming good, and Ollie seems to be providing some sort of background to it. Whereas Arsenal have just been let to make cash. I think this is a big one. Not making European football. I think the worst thing for Arsenal would be finishing 7th or somehow finishing 8th, which I can't see. it's little things, Dan. That I think Arsenal got rid of one of the head scouts, Steve something, a few years ago, and it was kind of uproar. And then they brought in Flynn Millensa, and after a year he went, and Raul Sanelli came in for a couple of years, and then he went, and Gazidez went, and someone else there, Hus Fahmy, I'm not sure if he's still in the club. So it's just gone madness, really, that what's happened upstairs. No, it wouldn't be tolerated at any other club. But I was saying off air, Arsenal don't have too many people like a Jamie Carragher, like a Gary Neville that are in the TV punditry spotlight 24/7. That would come out and condemn, or have the intelligence really to come out vocally about it. So it's just the way it is, But it's a sad. It kind of is. It's like at the start of the year, I think a lot of people were worried about what could happen. Maybe could they do a Leeds and fall from grace, and it's kind of a blessing maybe that Arsenal did end up in that safe. But it's a shadow of what the club was, and I think it really is. Like I think it's a lot of it is on the players. I think if a good man, I think Arsenal definitely need a manager. I think they need to get away from this good football or this idea of playing passive, tepid football. I think it's just, I think Arsenal need a man like Carlo Ancelotti or someone. Carlo's not going to be the most glamorous, and I know Everton fans are having that little bit of battle at the moment. But he's won a Premier League with Chelsea. He's won big competitions. He's managed Real Madrid, and we're definitely not getting him with the wages he's at Everton. But it's just. I was looking at the list of Paddy Power and the odds, and Tuchel's still 3-1. Rodgers is 3-1. So none of them are coming. Allegri 13-5. Like I bite your hand off for that. And then you've got Vieira 10-1, Rafa Benitez 10-1, Simeone, who would be my ideal now that Tuchel's gone. I'd take Simeone in the morning, and then it's Hasenhüttl, Lumber, Sol Campbell, Sarri. A lot of people talk about Maurizio Sarri. Like I don't know.
But this is the thing. Why get rid of Arteta? Like he's trying to, obviously hasn't been a great season. Yeah, fair enough. But like he's trying to build something at least. Like who there's nobody ready-made replacement there. They're going to get someone similar to Arteta in the mold of like the likes of Vieira or Lumberg. Like Lumberg had a couple of games was shite there as well. So there's nobody ready-made replacements there. Like if there's someone there like kind of ready to come in, like you have a case there. But that's another reason why I think you just got to stick with him, like kind of give him another season. Next season, if it still doesn't work out, yeah, fair enough, it might be time to go. But then at least there might be a bit more availability on the market, like in terms of who can come in and replace him.
I think I do say kind of to cut across, but I do think this is big for the Cronkies. I think not making Europe. I think this is financially going to hit the club. I think if there's ever a time they're going to sell it, I don't think they will sell it unless they get big bucks. I think this is the only time they will sell it. So it's not looking good, the future of Arsenal. But there's worse things in life, I suppose.
Well, yeah,
Super League.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, imagine. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, Connor, go on. Just on maybe Mikel Arteta in general.
I was just going to say, like, saying he's clearing out the deadwood. I think he's bringing in more deadwood than he's clearing out. Like, he brought in Willian to huge wages. Like, can't even start in the European semi-final. Not good enough. David Luiz is brought in by Mikel Arteta and extended by Mikel Arteta. I don't think he's like consistently good enough at all. Thomas Partey was the big signing this summer. That's Mikel Arteta. Thought he was shocking tonight. I mean, didn't start Gabriel Martinelli tonight, who I thought should have been in there ahead of Odegaard. I don't. If I was an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't have the same affiliation. Now, in fairness, I was blinded by Frank Lampard because now, like, this is the thing. If we're going to be comparing legacies, I think it's going to be a pretty fucking, it's going to be Floyd Mayweather versus a puppy when you compare Frank Lampard's legacy at Chelsea versus Mikel Arteta at Arsenal. So, like, I'm obviously going to have that affiliation. But if I was an Arsenal fan right now, I'd be thinking, get rid. There has to be someone else out there that can do a better job. 9th in the league. If this was anyone else, they'd be gone. And I don't see the project either. Like, there was some of that football today was absolutely abysmal. It reminded me of playing down at the fucking Hill and Park Celtic. People just lumping the ball a mile in the air, jumping for headers. Couldn't even get it on the ground and string passes together. I thought it was a shadow of what Wenger had built in the past. No, I thought it was dreadful. And I don't see... Outside of the FA Cup, which I think Aubameyang kind of almost like led the charge almost single-handedly for that competition before he got the big contract. I don't see a project under Mikel Arteta at all. Like, I really don't. I even think sending Guendouzi, I know he's a shithouse, but sending Guendouzi out on loan and look at him now, like having a great season. could really do with him in that centre midfield tonight. Like, so I think bad decisions, bad managerial decisions, bad transfers, I'd get rid. And like the worst finish that Arsenal have had in years, and no Europe for first time in 25 years. If it was going in one direction, that'd be fine, but it's going one direction downhill like an avalanche. So like I'd be saying get rid. Let's try and find someone. The only problem then, I suppose, to Keane's point is who do you find out there that's actually willing to take the job? Because Rodgers won't take it now. Tuchel won't take it. I hope to Jesus.
Are you sure?
We'll see how the Champions League final and the FA Cup final goes. But no, like I suppose the point that Keane's making, like there is a lack of availability of good managers. And Ten Hag just signed on again there with Ajax, and you are competing with Tottenham now. Maybe you get Ryan Mason in or something, but. No, like I don't know who's there to be had, and like you're competing now. If you do get rid, you'd want to do it now, so like you can get in ahead of Spurs for whoever is available and is looking for a job out there. Like,
yeah, Keane. Just what about Connor's couple of points on like Arteta? If you are backing him, and I'm happy to get behind the project, but like he signed Willian. And like on a lesser note, he signed Thomas Partey. Like I still think he's a quality player. Call me deluded. The two of us are watching, going, he'll come good eventually. And not playing Martinelli, which I think is massive. I know he's been unlucky with injuries, but this season. But Martinelli not starting tonight, really, I don't get that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like fair enough. The Willian signing, you got to hold his hands up and say that's just gone as bad as it could have possibly gone. Yeah, that you in particular know my feelings on Willian. To say I'm not a fan is an understatement. But like even like when I was saying earlier about Deadwood, he's got rid of like massive players who have cost like previous managers like Emery and Wenger. He's got like the likes of Mustafi, he's cost them 200 their job. Kolasinac didn't help. There's plenty of other players there that I kind of have been cleared out. Like David Luiz was signed by Unai Emery as well. That wasn't Arteta signing. I think like he hasn't, like, I mean, when the Martinelli situation it's a difficult one. Like obviously we all want him to be playing. He obviously doesn't want to overload the squad with too many young players, which is ironic considering the young players is what's saving us at the moment. He made some interesting comments in the week about how Martinelli and Tierney aren't really suited to play with each other on the left hand side, which I'd say is a major factor and one of the reasons why I think Martinelli likes to go to the end line, Tierney likes to go to the end line, just starting to play. So I think that's possibly one of the reasons why he hasn't played. And Tierney is obviously one of our most important players. So I think that's a big factor why Martinelli hasn't played. I do think he's good enough to get him into the team somewhere. When you consider some of the players that haven't played ahead of him, the likes of Willian early on the season, and even Pepe, sometimes he's in and out of form. So I mean, the Martinelli situation is difficult again to defend Arteta on. So every time he's played, he's one of our brightest players. He's definitely one for the future, and he's like, Arteta, the way Arteta speaks about him, he talks about him so highly as well. So I definitely think that there is a massive future for him with the club if taking a hold on to him, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, like as I said, the Thomas Partey situation looked like a great sign at the time. I think, as I say, he's gotten rid of a few players. Brought on, got obviously selling Martinez over Leno was another questionable decision. At the time, looked like good business. So in theory, a lot of these things are looking positive and they've kind of taken a turn. But as I said, he's been quite unlucky with a lot of things. The fans
Yep. Sean, just quickly, final thing before we go on Premier League fan predictions. We are going to get to that, by the way, for those watching the live broadcast. Just kind of elaborate a little bit more on your point in terms of what would you like to see from players like, Ray Parler, or former players like Ian Wright, in terms of speaking up for the club. And why is that important when you see like a Jamie Carragher or Gary Neville doing the same?
Well, like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's going to have much different now. I think the fact that the Invincibles are involved in this takeover, I think is once I saw their name to that, I thought this is serious. I think this is going to gather speed. Look, I don't know. I don't even know what more you could say about it, really. The ex-players, a lot of them still involved in the club and different things. So it's hard to know. But I don't know what Arteta like. I do kind of like him, and I I think I'm no affiliation to those players, by the homegrown lads. Like I've nothing. There's no player there. Like Hector Bellerin. Like I've never seen someone regress so much from an injury. It's actually a sorry sight because for a couple of years I think he was one of the best fullbacks in the league, especially under Emery. He was brilliant for them, and just injuries have destroyed him. it's just I don't know. It's hard. The worst thing is I feel sorry for a few of those players who've signed for Arsenal, and then others I wonder, why they're signing for Arsenal. Anyone who signs for Arsenal, I think I actually said this to you, Dan, before. Like, I worry for anyone who's signing. Like, why are they signing for Arsenal? I mean, it's not. It's a big club in name. It's a massive football club, but the way it's run, everything about it is just years behind everyone else, and it's bizarre. It really is.
Yeah, I'm sick of supporting, like Ireland. Ireland are like 10 years behind everyone else. Arsenal are 10 years behind everyone else. Bar the Dubs. And now the Dubs are too good. I don't even enjoy watching that anymore. It's just a bit depressing. Like, but let's move on to Premier League fan predictions, lads. All right, let's pick up the pace here. Let's have a bit of crack. Sorry for those listeners that were really enjoying that depressing first 20 minutes, but we're going to go on Leicester City at home to Newcastle. We'll go to you, Connor. You absolutely battered Brian, to be fair to you, and it was a good win. Possibly 10-1 or 10-2. I know he's in the comments somewhere probably tuning in, but yeah, how do you see this game going? And well done on your victory last week.
Well, thanks very much. I thought Brian was unlucky, but I think that's kind of the bad omen when you pick against your own club. I think you're kind of destined to lose then. But for this game, I was actually surprised last week. I didn't see the game now, I have to be honest with Leicester, but surprised they actually ended up drawing with Southampton when they were down to 10 men. Quite a poor result considering Southampton's form and everything. But look, I'm going to go with them again this week for, I suppose, film me once kind of stuff here. But look, like Kelchi Iheanacho, like, I can't pick against that man these days. He's just on such form. And that Leicester, like, I was actually saying this to you off air, Dan, but like Leicester as a whole, like just as a club, I absolutely love this club. Like, I was looking at the semi-finals there at the Champions League. Mahrez and Kante are the two outstanding players in the competition, like for the semi-finals, 2 man of the match performances, and both from Leicester. And then you think if they're gone out of the club, like where would Leicester be in their third in the league? It's actually incredible. They're, like, comparing what Sean was saying earlier about the scouting at Arsenal, scouting at Leicester is just incredible. And so I'll pick them to win. I'm going to go 2-0 versus Newcastle. Arsenal beat them 2-0 there at the weekend. I don't know. I think Newcastle are safe now at this stage. Fulham don't look like they're going to make a climb back, and I don't think there's too much to play for, and I just don't think they have the quality to beat a Leicester team at home. So I'll go Leicester 2-0.
Yeah, into you, Key, and I guess Newcastle, we kind of watch them every weekend, really. For some reason, they always seem to be on the telly, and they're just like, at times they could be the worst team in the league by a mile.
Yeah, I think they really are up and down. Thanks. They're really up and down. Sorry about that. They're really up and down in their kind of form and stuff like that. And they're a tough watch at the best of times. Like, they've very few kind of flair players there that makes things interesting. But I'd say Maximin, they really struggle. So yeah, as I said, I think Leicester just have far too much for them. They have a lot of very good players there. As Connor touched on, their recruitment has been unbelievable, like second to none. And I think in this game I'm going to go for a Leicester 3-1 win. I think last year at this point of the season they started the bottle under pressure and kind of threw out Champions League places. This season it doesn't look like it's happening at all. They're coming into the end of the season and they're still playing so well. Iheanacho's been a great joy to watch. So. Pretty very confident here on a Leicester win. I hope I don't jinx that there now, but me and Connor should both it off to at least a 1 point win start here.
Good stuff. Yeah, into you, Sean. Just on what Connor says, Leicester are a very well-run club. Like, considering they won a Premier League with a phenomenal team, and now they're kind of picked out their manager a couple of years in advance, and he seems to have got them top 4. A manager that a lot of Arsenal fans would have thrown their nose up if he got the Arsenal job. Let's be fair, myself included, maybe 18 months ago. And
they sacked Ranieri, and that's probably the most telling thing. In Chelsea, sacked Frank Lampard, and sometimes you get your big managerial appointments right, and Johannes Leicester didn't really get it right with Claude Puel. Like, there was no sort of identity, and I think clubs like that need to have a way of playing, because that's the way you sustain things, and that's probably something that Everton had under David Moyes, so they could sustain good performances and good league finishes. Leicester, yeah, great team to watch. Their recruitment is, is another bone I have with Arsenal. But Arsenal never really buy a player like from a West Ham or a Brighton, a young English player like Lewis Dunk springs to mind, or Arsenal would never be in the hunt for Declan Rice, or would never be in the hunt for James Justin or someone like that. And I think that's a huge part we're doing wrong. I think
why not do you think?
I don't know. I just with the whole thing, and Arsenal have obviously moved, which is a weird thing, to this kind of agent-based transfer recruitment. which is dangerous. Then you go to United. I think that's what United are so good at. Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, guys who improved them massively from other Premier League clubs. And it was something that Sir Alex Ferguson always did. And I think it was a huge tactic of his that if I sign from within the league, I lessen other teams. Rio Ferdinand from Leeds, Cantona from Leeds, Michael Carrick, guys
Van
like
Persie.
that. Yeah, Van Persie.
I didn't want to say it, but
So
I had to throw it in.
And I definitely think Arsenal, we'd never sign a player like that. We'd never sign someone from
Willian or David Luiz.
Yeah, or like an English player particularly, or someone like that from that ilk, like Decore at Watford. We're never in for him. And he's been brilliant for Everton. And that's what Leicester have been really good at, recruiting from lower down in the leagues. And their academy is really coming to the fore now. I think Leicester are really their academy is really producing great players, and I think they will eventually replace either Arsenal or Tottenham in the top 6 big clubs. I think because if they win the FA Cup this year, they're very much a part of it. But their academy is really starting to come good. They've got a guy at Luton, Drewsbury Hall, who's been one of the best players in the Championship this year. Every time I watch him, I think he's brilliant. And then you look at the Leicester squad, and you get nowhere near it. So credit to Leicester, and obviously the legacy of their owner Vichai. What he did is all over that football club, and the new training ground they have. It's definitely a club on the up, and definitely where you look at a club like Everton when we were young, 10 years ago under David Moyes, they were the next big club. They were top 6, and you look what Leicester have done. They've definitely replaced Everton, and probably close to replacing Arsenal or Tottenham, and probably Tottenham more than Arsenal. It just shows you how bad it is. But Leicester are brilliant.
Yeah, and even they were almost halted last year. They should have got top 4, and that nearly in a way has kind of allowed them to develop this season. But Cian, we go to you for Leeds United versus Tottenham. You're widely known as not being I hope you don't mind me saying this. I would consider I don't like Tottenham, where I think you would say I hate Tottenham. Would that be fair to say?
Well, it could be nearly an understatement there, Dan, to be honest with you. This is the kind of game that would cheer me right up. Now, Leeds are very, very good team, very impressed with them. Fancy them to, have a bit of a handy day at the office here against Spuds. Listen, this is a team they'd make you laugh, sacking Jose the week 4 cup final. The man he was brought in to do one job is to win trophies, gets it to a final, doesn't even get the chance. It's actually funny how embarrassing that is. I know I'm sitting here chiming up after watching that shite from Arsenal, but it is good content. Every time I get sad with Arsenal, I just think it could be worse, it could be Spurs, so they've taken out arguably the greatest manager of all time and put in a lad who has a brain injury in charge, which is a bit of a questionable going into a cup final. But I think Leeds are very good. I think Marcelo Bielsa has obviously got them playing really well. They've been really impressive all season long. I think everybody's enjoyed watching them. I do genuinely think they will win this game, all joking aside. I think they'll win it quite comfortably. I'm going to go for a 4-1 win to Leeds. I'm gonna put my neck on the line a bit. I think Spurs will lose Harry Kane in the summer. I think it's at the point now where he can stay if he wants to be considered one of the great players of the Premier League. Even if he breaks the record, Alan Shearer's record, I still think he needs to go win some trophies. The way he's talking as if he's kind of gearing up to move on this summer. Despite the fact that he obviously loves the club and all that, but he's got to put himself first at the end of the day. And then I think after that, it's going to be really hard to replace him. I don't think they've got many top quality players after that. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But yeah, I'm going to go for here with a comfortable Leeds win.
Right, Connor, try and follow that, because I know Chelsea and Spurs aren't exactly the best of mates either.
Yeah, no, I'm not. To be honest, I wouldn't have the same vitriol towards Spurs, but it's fucking brilliant to hear. Look, I to be honest, I don't necessarily disagree with anything that Cian said. You heard me last week on this show saying how outrageous that decision was. I mean, for a guy who isn't he the only guy to beat Guardiola in a cup final in the last however many years, Mourinho?
Yeah,
and to get rid of him and to bring in Ryan Mason, it's just hilarious to me. And I predicted, I think it was 3-0 or something for that cup final. Now it only ended up winning 1-0, but I mean, it could have been 6-0. They were just that was one of the most, like, forget about Arsenal semi-finals, like, that was one of the most pitiful performances in a cup final. It really was. It was just terrible. Harry Kane didn't look fit. It was just really bad from Spurs in that final, to be honest. Now, as far as the game goes, I have a friend in the comments there, Mankell. He was giving me guff last week because I picked against these, but I actually ended up being right. Brighton did get the jump on them. But I'd actually agree with Keane on this one. I do think this is a match that suits Leeds, especially at home. Spurs away from home haven't been great, and Leeds home form against the Big Six has been fantastic this year. And just their style of play, like, I just feel like the way they attack, the way they drive at teams, Jack Harrison, if Rafinha's fit as well, I mean, like, it's such a beautiful attacking outlet. And then Bamford up front, I think they could have a very good shot at beating Spurs in this game. And then Spurs they're so Spursy. I mean, they won that game last week against Sheffield United, but I mean, I know we're going to touch on Sheffield in a minute, but like they're just a terrible, terrible football team, Sheffield United. And I just don't think Spurs will be able to kind of maintain the momentum. It's kind of one of the biggest issues I think Spurs have had this year is, like, they'll win 1, draw 2, lose 1, win 1, and they just can't seem to get. I think the last time they won 2 on the bounce was March, so I'm going to go with the Leeds win as well. I'll go 2-1 to Leeds. I won't go 4-1. I think 4-1's a bit too much, but no, I'll give it 2-1 to Leeds. I'll go Bamford to get 2 and Harry Kane to get 1.
Yeah, Sean, how well are Tottenham run?
I think they've done well. I think they have done well because, you know, they definitely had a few good seasons with Poch, but they've managed to sustain it. I think they're kind of similar to Leicester in the way they've done it. But I think Tottenham have been really lucky with some of the players they've been able to produce. So I do kind of fancy Leeds here, if I'm honest. I fancy it to be a really good game. You know, Leeds are, as the lads have said, really good to watch. But there is something I kind of like about this Ryan Mason idea at Tottenham. I just think they can go out and, you know, play ball and be attacking and try and, you know, create opportunities. But, you know, it's a tough game to call. I think a draw, you know, Leeds have drawn against a lot of the Big Six so far this year: Liverpool, United, Arsenal, City. So I think a draw is probably on the cards.
Absolutely, Keane. We'll stick with you then for the next game. Interesting comments on Ryan Mason there. But yeah, we'll go to Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace now. Sheffield United have got an awful time in the podcast. Disgrace. I know Connor made a comment there as well. So you kind of, like, you know, like, they're gone. So don't take it easy on them and maybe just give us a prediction for Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I was actually thinking there. I was going to bring up the fact that, you know, one of your former podcasts, people, Brian Murphy has called them a disgrace. I thought that was, you know, it made me laugh at a time when I heard it, and I think it was a great way to describe it, to be honest with you. Just some of their games this season, like, they've, like, it's been absolutely appalling. Like, sometimes I watch them, like, you watch a game sometimes and you're like, I want to see goals. So, like, if that's one team, you know, hammering another team getting goals, it's kind of a bit entertaining. But when you watch a Sheffield United, it's not even fun. It's just like, this is just, you know, you feel so sorry for them. Just real lack of quality there. Having said that, I think Palace are much better in terms of, you know, the quality they have. They can get results. They have a manager who can get them results. They've got experienced Premier League players who are getting them by. I think they're a club in massive trouble going forward in the future. I think, you know, Hodgson's obviously getting on. He's not going to be there. And, you know, he might get next season. I'm going to say that with the max, there's a lot of players out of contract there this summer. They're like definitely an aging squad. You know, they have produced like a few decent players in the last couple of years in their academy, the likes of Aaron Wan-Bissaka and your man Mitchell at left back. But, like, realistically, that's not they don't really, their academy generally doesn't pull up much trumps. Like, so yeah, I'm gonna go for a 0-0 here. I won't be really watching this game, let's be honest here. I don't think there'll be many tuning in.
Yeah, Connor, we've been called an anti-Tottenham and anti-Sheffield United podcast in the comments here. Is that fair?
It sounds about right, but I mean, like, who isn't anti-Sheffield United? I mean, like, they are literally a cancer to the eyes to watch. It's just a shocking football team. Like, I completely agree with Keane. Like, this is really, like, the game. Like, this is a sight for sore eyes. This game is really not one that you'd want to be watching. Like, the way I put it is, if you got either of these teams in, like, random on FIFA, you'd be like, we'll go again. Like, I don't want to play with either of these teams. Like, it's not a great fixture on paper. But Sheffield United in particular, like, I really thought at the start of the season they would have a good shot at beating Derby's record. They were that bad. It's just, I said it last week, but, like, missing, like, no Jack O'Connell, it's just been terrible for them. They've really struggled at the back. I watched that Spurs game, and I think it was the second goal that Bale got. I was looking and I was like, is he actually onside? Like, how in the name of Jesus has he been given this much space to just run around? And, like, when you're watching Sheffield as well, you feel like people are just having shot practice at Ramsdale. Like people are just pinging shots at him from all angles trying to score. It's actually really sad, and like, you know, considering how good Chris Wilder did last year with them, it is kind of sad to see what they've become. And like to that point as well, I think these guys are the hack when it comes to like FPL draft. Every week I'm just trying to draft an attacking player that's going against Sheffield United to try and bang one in. But look, I don't think, like, there's every chance this could be a 0-0, but I'm going to go with a 2-0 for Palace, just because Palace tend to kill off the bottom feeder teams. I think they've beaten their last 3 wins are like Brighton, Newcastle, and West Brom, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this should be a game that they should win, really. And Sheffield United, I don't think they've drawn a game in donkeys, because they just tend to lose or else somehow beat Brighton. But that's about it for them. So I'll go 2-0 Palace.
Yeah, Sean, do you see that Palace have a documentary, Amazon Prime documentary coming out?
No, I didn't actually. But
it's not about this season. I think it's like a combination of clips from when Zaha joined the club or stuff. But for anyone watching, maybe give us a comment on what it's about. But yeah, I thought you might have heard of it. Yeah, but Palace in general, like Roy Hodgson, what are your thoughts?
They're 1 point above Southampton. Same games played, which I just think is classic Roy Hodgson.
Yeah.
No, Palace, like, they're it's going to be a weird summer for them. I think it's going to be very interesting, because they went down the Frank de Boer route and it just blatantly didn't work. And then Sheffield United, I don't give them any chance in the Championship next year, even though the Championship will be a very poor league next year. It'll be a very interesting league though, with the likes of Big Mick McCarthy, you know, getting a full season at it. It's going to be a very, very poor Championship next year, I think, because Norwich and Watford are, you know, really been carrying the standard. And I think if Bournemouth especially get promoted, it'll be the first time in I don't know how long that the 3 relegated teams will get promoted straight back. So that'd be an interesting one to see. Chris Wilder, I'd nearly take him at Arsenal, but it's just I don't know. It's a weird one at Sheffield United, because it was a scene of a major win. And there's great videos after they beat Crystal Palace. I think they did the double over them, but they beat them at Selhurst Park and Sander Berg's debut, I think. And I've seen that clip a few times of Chris Wilder and kissing the badge and stuff. And you just forget what football with fans was like. And it's just a completely different game. And their club has massively suffered from it, because that's a real part of their identity. And maybe with fans back next year in the Championship, but I think the fans won't feel as engaged with the team because of what happened with Wilder and the way it ended. So it's one to keep an eye on with Sheffield United. Like, they could easily plummet down to League One. It'd be an interesting summer for John Egan, especially out of the Irish players there. To be honest, you know, maybe a Sander Berg will move up. It'd be interesting to see if he comes back from injury. John Lundstrom's out of contract, but no, I don't think I've seen too many of those players that will get a game in a Premier League side, which is a large part of the reason they failed.
Yeah, listen, Manchester City versus Chelsea. We're kind of 5:30 on a Saturday. This is a little bit more like it, Connor. Big game in the sense that it's like a run headed for the Champions League final. In another way, it's not really big at all, and there's only one game. Obviously, it's the game before the game, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a trial run, I suppose. They both looked absolutely fantastic during the week. Now, I know a lot of people, like, who I've talked to about the Chelsea game, and I suppose about PSG as well for the City game, they've said, like, Madrid didn't really show up. It's an old Madrid team. But I mean, it's a Madrid team that handled Liverpool fairly easily in the quarterfinal. And it's a Madrid team that are still chasing down the La Liga title. And I just thought, like, to be honest, it was a very, I think my friend Sean's watching, but like, we were both like WhatsApping each other being like, this is torture to watch, because the amount of chances that Chelsea just had to put that game to bed, it should have been 5 or 6-0. Like, Mason Mount missed a 1-on-1. Kai Havertz hit the bar. He also missed a 1-on-1. Thiago Silva had a free header that he missed. I mean, like, it was just chance after chance, and they gave Real Madrid nothing. So, like, it was one of the most impressive Chelsea performances, while being one of the most frustrating Chelsea performances to watch. But it's a great fun. And then the City game looked like City are just different gravy, really. Like, it's amazing how, like, I think it was Carr who said it last year when Keane was having a go at him, because he's like, when we signed Suarez, we almost won the league. He's like, you almost won it, like, you know, like, you didn't. But like, when you look at Ruben Diaz being brought in, like, oh my God, like, what an absolute Porsche of a player. Like, he's just, I love what, like, I used to play centre back myself back in my day, but watching him is just a treat. Like, he's so good, like, passing out from the back, his blocking, his talking, his communication. he's just a fantastic football player. But I thought both teams gave a great showing of themselves. I thought PSG gave a dreadful showing of themselves in that semi-final, to be honest. Like, I thought the way they handled the game at the end was absolutely atrocious. But look, like, on the game itself in the Premier League, I think it's going to be a bit of a all fart no shite kind of game, so to speak. Like, I don't think there's going to be much about it. Like, it's going to be like, they're such fucking tactical and overthinking masterminds, the two of them. They'll probably end up putting out like not the team they're going to play in the final and like mix stuff around. So I'll go with a draw on this one. I know I was saying there, don't pick against your team, but like, it is tough to back. It's tough to say Chelsea are going to go out there and put a show on City, like, away from home. So I'll go with a draw. I'll say 1-1, a 1-1 draw. It's tough to see. It's one of those ones where it's tough to see either team lose. Like, Tuchel's only losses against West Brom, which was just a shambles. Like, it's just one of those games. Like, and then City just look, like I said, like, they look like one of the best teams the Premier League's ever seen at the moment. So I'll say 1-1, a 1-1 draw for this game.
Yeah, Cian, into you. Tuchel has been in charge for 24 games and he's had 18 clean sheets. Would you believe?
Yeah, it's an insane stat, and I saw today as well that Mendy broke the record for Premier League goalkeeper, like the most clean sheets in the Champions League campaign ever, with 8, which is insane as well. Like, and think about where he was at the start of the season. Like, people were like questioning, was he good enough? And now he's kind of broken into the team. He's definitely established as number one, and he's end up being a top class goalkeeper this season as the season's gone on. You got to look at Chelsea. Like, that performance was unbelievable there. Like, Mason Mount is just a serious baller. Like, it's great to see him finally getting the recognition that he deserves. Since he's broken into that team, like, I personally thought he's been a very good player. Like, people always kind of scapegoat him, Frank, the German Fat Frank or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, he is he is a top player. I think Connor's right though in this game. It's a difficult one to call. I think there's not going to be much between the two teams. They're both are off the back of a massive European performance. There's going to be a bit of a hangover there for both sides, I think. And the fact that Chelsea don't concede goals, I can see this. I was going to go for a 0-0 in here as well. I think I'm not going to say it's going to be a dull game. I'll say a bit of a tense game. It's not how I see the final going. I see the final being a quick spectacle. But I think this game, both clubs, you have to also remember that Chelsea need to win. Like, they're still pushing for the top 4. Like, if they lose to the final to Chelsea, to City, and then they end up outside the top 4, it's actually a disastrous season for them, despite what Tuchel has done. So I see him picking up a point here. I'm just going to go for a 0-0 draw for this one.
Yeah, Sean, I guess Mason Mount was similar to what Cian said. Like, he was Frank's boy, and I think that's beyond recognition now. But I think the PSG game almost solidified, if there were any doubters left, and how good a player he is. Does he start for England? Well, I think he obviously does start for England, but who do they fit around him then is going to be a great question over the summer.
No, I definitely think he starts, because I think he's a manager's dream. But I think the success of Foden and Mount is probably because of the coaches they have and the systems that they play. I mean, Phil Foden can just flourish in that Manchester City side. They're so solid, they're so strong, and it's similar to Chelsea. I mean, even if one of those players gives the ball away, they'll just get it back. I mean, it's incredible what they've done. I did feel on Wednesday night, it felt a little bit, it felt like it was a little bit anticlimactic. The two owners who are probably in the game for more reputational matters, that have spent the most money this summer, that have the best squads. I mean, when I saw Man City's squad, when they all came out after the game to celebrate, Benjamin Mendy, Nathan Ake, Sterling didn't start, Aguero didn't start, Jesus didn't start, Cancelo, Rodri didn't start.
It's a joke, like.
And then even when I looked at Chelsea's, I mean, Pulisic didn't start, Ziyech didn't start, Kepa Arrizabalaga, one of the most expensive goalkeepers
Hudson
ever. Yeah,
Kovacic was injured.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really mind Hudson-Odoi, academy lads, but it's just scandalous how good those squads are, and I think it's money does talk in this game, and
Sean, just maybe more focused on City, because I just for this question, like, everyone's giving out with the Super League, like, looking at City's bench in particular, I think it was like 450 million. Their team would definitely give Man City a good game in the final. They're Man City's second team. Was football already broken before the Super League?
Yeah, no, I think it's because of the financial fair play. I mean, financial fair play was to protect clubs. I don't think it's done that, I think probably the Arsenal owners will probably be complaining about financial fair play, because they've abided by it, probably not to put their hands in their pockets, but Man City and Chelsea, these clubs, that they just don't abide by it. Man City in particular. And Chelsea spending, I mean, to spend 200 million in a summer of COVID when every football club is supposedly have a shortage of cash. I know they had the transfer ban the year before, but I thought it was a really symbolic night that, you know, in the final this year with everything that's happened with football being given back to the fans and all this, you know, kind of tripe that it's turned out to be. You've got the, you know, two multi-billionaire owners, and their clubs are going to dominate. You know, I certainly think Chelsea will dominate with Tuchel for a couple of years, and they'll definitely, I think, be second favourites for the league next year, and you'd kind of fancy them over a 38-game season as well. But I thought it was just an interesting night for the game. You know, I think we've seen this before. It's actually interesting because City are gonna, you know, I kind of remember this with Arsenal, Liverpool a few years ago, where, you know, teams are playing each other, come in the run in. I think we had our Liverpool winning the Champions League and in the FA Cup within a few weeks. United have had that before as well. And, you know, this game is going to be an interesting one. And I think what's going to be on show is how good those squads are, because they're going to use those squads, you know. They're going to use the Mendys, the Akes. Like, I think it's staggering. City paid, what, 40, 50 million for Nathan Ake?
50 million for Nathan Ake.
Yeah, and they probably bought him so United didn't get him. You know, you can imagine Ake. You can imagine Ake with Maguire at United. Ake seems like the ideal partner for Harry Maguire. So
left-footed centre-back as well.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. But anyway, I'm not sure what the game will be, to be honest. I think a draw is probably a good result. But fair play to Tuchel. He's done a brilliant job. But I think that he's just knitted those players together.
Having said all that, sorry to interrupt if you're going to go on there, but despite all the money they've spent, you got to look at the two star players in both the teams. Phil Foden, like, you know, they're both two academy players. So at the end of the day, like, they are obviously producing as well.
Reece James. I was going to say part of Chelsea's. If I was to defend Chelsea there, but I don't necessarily disagree with what Sean's saying. But if I was to defend Chelsea at all, I'd say, like, the massive transfer ban. Sold Hazard for 150 million pounds. I mean, when you look at actually Chelsea's net spend over the last 5 years, they're actually very close to the green, which is something that people. I mean, it's very easy to kind of weigh in on Chelsea and look at them as like the same team as 2004, but it's not really. They've gotten a lot of big deals from Hazard. Even Morata, they made a ton of money on loaning him out to Atletico and then selling them on. And they've had a lot of obviously they've had a lot of money spent, but they've had a lot of money coming in as well. And then they've had a lot of time where they can't even spend money. And a lot of their squad depth does come from Hudson-Odoi, you know, Tammy Abraham, Reece James, Mason Mount. There are a lot of academy boys in the Chelsea team, which is a different thing, which is, you know, credit to Frank as well. I mean, that's partly his baby, like bringing those boys through. But like, I would say, like, I think it's tough to compare Chelsea and City in that vein, because City don't really have those big outgoing transfers. They're just kind of all spend, so to speak, I suppose.
But what I think with Chelsea is, I think, well, obviously the loan system at Chelsea has, you know, been proven to be an absolute disgrace, really, with what happens. But also they had, you know, the idea with the thing with Chelsea is the power they have is, you know, Kepa Arrizabalaga had a few poor games. I think did even Caballero play a few games at the start of the season.
But Kepa's crap, like
yeah. But
what it is.
But what Chelsea did was they just addressed it. They just splashed 50, 60 million or whatever it was from Mendy straight away.
20 million. He cost 20 million.
Was he?
It wasn't that much at all. Like, it was 20 million for Mendy. Like I take the point, fair enough. Like with Kai Havertz, like that was a massive splash, and to like during COVID as well, when they knew other teams were weak. But I mean, like the Mendy one is cheap as chips. It was just, I mean, like that was just foolish transfer business to go. I don't know who really actually assessed that situation and said, let's spend 72 million on this Bilbao keeper. I mean, like that one will, like that and the Bakayoko one are going to haunt me forever, to be quite honest. Like, I just don't understand. And that's a huge problem Chelsea will have. I was talking about this with my mate the other day, coming in. Like, how do you sell Ross Barkley, Bakayoko, and Danny Drinkwater? Like, there is that is part of the problem now, is the wage bill. Ruben Loftus-Cheek hasn't had a very successful loan spell. Even Conor Gallagher at West Brom is going to be coming back. There's a lot, like the squad is absolutely huge, and that'll be a massive job for Tuchel next year. Like, Tammy Abraham's on the fringes now as well, so like trying to get rid of a bunch of these players is going to be a massive task. But I suppose that's kind of the future's problem right now. It's FA Cup, Champions League, and trying to get top four.
Right, let's fly ahead. We're way behind on time. Liverpool, Southampton. Keane, into you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for. I think Southampton have tailored off a bit recently. I think they're kind of at this stage they're on their holidays. Liverpool, again, obviously had a very good season either. I'm gonna go for a 2-0 Liverpool win. I think it'll be pretty straightforward routine afternoon for them.
Very good, very good. Connor, into you. As I have your hashtag keep Tammy Abraham from last week, I said I get that up to give him the talk. But Liverpool, Southampton. How do you see it go?
I'm kind of similar to Keane. Like, I think Southampton are kind of done with this season, and I think it's time for Liverpool to kind of shit or get off the pot, so to speak. They need to fucking start getting going, don't they? Like, if they really want to look for top four, it's amazing if they still even have a chance of getting it. They have a good record against Southampton. I think that Hasenhüttl crying win was his first, was Southampton's first in 7 games or something against Liverpool. So I'll go Liverpool. I'll go 3-0. I'll go one up from Keane to try and get a bit of a differential in there. So I'll go 3-0 Liverpool.
Yeah, Sean, you tend to love getting a dig at Southampton at my expense on the podcast. It's been noted every week, but yeah, I presume Liverpool are winning this.
Well, I don't know. Southampton are going for the double over them, so that'd be the only hope.
Forgot about that.
Is Southampton, but no, it's kind of one of those irrelevant games now after Liverpool's performance the other week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, Ralph, if you remember here after that 1-0 win, if you knew the kind of fall from grace there, he's
my God.
Let's not get into. Yeah, so Sean, one of Sean's favourite team to another, Wolves at home to Brighton. We'll go to you, Connor, for this game. You kind of got Brighton right, I guess, against Leeds last week. Are you going to get them right this week away to Wolves?
Yeah, I think that was a much needed win for Brighton as well, just to kind of get that solidity in there, like, and make sure that Fulham are just that bit behind. I think it's a 10-point gap now. Look, like I said, like I was even looking there for non-penalty. Like, I'll go back to my analytics here, but non-penalty XG, they're like 3rd in the league or something, like for per game. Like, they really do have a very solid setup. And even if you look at the defenders on your FPL, Lewis Dunk has one less point than Trent Alexander-Arnold, which is pretty unbelievable when you think how high people draft that guy. So look, I really fancy Brighton in terms of how they're set up and how they're organised on the pitch tactically. I think Wolves are just like, I know I was digging into him last week and he actually ended up scoring, but I still don't get Fabio Silva. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. 40 million for that long-haired lad who just like literally has no pedigree and no history of performing. It's crazy. And without Jimenez, they look a bad team. Look, I think it's going to be a 0-0 draw. It's 2 teams that can defend well. Wolves have a good home record defensively. Brighton, tough team to score against. I think I'll go for this as my boring 0-0 of the week. 1 point each.
Yeah, Keane, I'd be interested in your take here.
Yeah, again, it's one of them games coming towards the end of the season. Both sides are kind of at the stage where there's not much to play for. Brighton have done enough at this point to stay up, and Wolves have never really got going, but never really been in the relegation battle either. I completely agree with Connor. When you see Fabio Silva play, you just don't even see any kind of talent around there. Not like that. I'm not saying he's obviously Premier League footballer today, but there's nothing to see in his game. They're like, he could turn into a top class footballer. 40 million is kind of outrageous for what they spend on them. They really miss Jimenez. They really miss like Doherty. I know they're missing Johnny for like a lot of the season as well. I think obviously Brighton struggle to score goals. I'd nearly agree with Connor in a 0-0, but I've already gone for 2-0 draw, so I'm going to go for 1-0 here.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Bore. I know Rob Phillips tried that tactic of 0-0, trying to bore us to death. Sean.
Brighton have been very good in the last few weeks, getting big results. I think they had a massive result away to Southampton, which kind of gave the momentum. I think it'd be interesting for Brighton next year how they keep a few of their players. Do they keep Basuma? Do they keep Trossard? Is it worth the risk of keeping a player that's unhappy, that probably wants to move on and further his career? Trossard, is a brilliant player. He's probably a little bit underrated in the Belgium squad. All of a sudden he has a pretty good Euros and he's worth mega money. So be interesting to see how they recruit in the summer. I think it's a big summer, but I'd back them to recruit well. They seem to have done that. And they've got the system in place with Dan Ashworth above Graham Potter, and Graham Potter just, will find a player somewhere. So I think Brighton have come through a very sticky spell, and they stuck by the manager, but I think it will pay dividends in the future.
Absolutely. Listen, we'll move on to Villa versus Manchester United. Cian, we live with a Manchester United fan. You've accused Manchester United of being boring in the past, and maybe you're releasing your inner Damien Delaney, if that's fair. What do you think of them after their performance against Roma? I know you obviously didn't catch the second leg, but you watched a good bit of the first leg.
Yeah, it's a weird one because like sometimes you see them play and they are like dreadfully woeful in terms of like some of the play. Like some of the games are just like really boring. You're watching them like a 0-0. There's very little pace to the game, and then next thing they can turn up and they can have a 2-2 or a 3-2 win or something like that, like an end-to-end game. I think it was the Leeds game a couple of weeks ago. I remember just watching 90 minutes of that, and I was like, this is now. this is one of the worst games I've seen in a long time. But then you go and you say what they're there, win 8-4 or whatever it was, and aggregated like loads of goals there. So they're they're a very temperamental team. I think there'll be goals here. I think Villa are a good team to score goals. Obviously, we'll be missing Jack Grealish. I'm not sure how far away he is from fitness, but I'm going to go for another draw. I'm going to go for 2-2 this time.
2-2, yeah. Rob Phillips is in the comments defending himself. It takes a brave man to pick nil-alls galore, Cian, so you're in good company, I guess.
Yeah, well, Rob is watching the podcast at the end of the day, like, So
yeah, that's very true. Yeah. The fact he's not here and commenting, it kind of speaks volumes. Connor?
Yeah, like United, they're a funny old team, aren't they? Like it's tough to put your finger on them. I will say this: like I did get I was very, very adamant that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was not a good manager, and I have to say I did get it wrong. I mean, like the guy has done, but for all his flaws and all his faults, I don't think he necessarily handles his press very well. But he's done a good job on the pitch. They do look a good team. They look well organized. The one thing I'd love to have a United fan on just to ask why the fuck Cavani doesn't play every game. I think it's absolutely insane. I think that's the big difference when they look good and they look like they're scoring goals. You get a guy who's got elite level movement and high class finishing at the top level of football for however many years, and instead you play ice cold Anthony Martial who just like waddles around the pitch like a spoiled brat. Like it's crazy to me. But I think Villa, like they won last week, El Golzi with another one, but like they're just like outside of Ollie Watkins without Jack Grealish, I just don't really rate the Aston Villa team that much. I think Grealish has kind of carried that team on his back from a championship team to a relegation team all the way up to a European contender. Like, he really is. Like, I think if Ireland had got him, like he's something else, Jack Grealish. He really is a special talent. But if he's not back, I see them struggling. I think they might be able to get a goal with Ollie Watkins. But I'll take United. Like United are pushing on. They're trying to solidify that second spot. So I'll go United 3-1. I'd say it'll be goals in this game. I'm hoping he plays Cavani, like just so it's more of an entertaining game, I suppose.
Yeah, Sean, Keane mentioned the 0-0 against Leeds, and Keane was fuming about the Craig Pawson performance, and I know you were fuming as well.
Oh my God. I've never watched a game and been more annoyed by a referee, and I watched the game as a neutral. Oh my God, it was horrendous. Do you know what I hate? Do you know, and it's a few pundits have picked up on it recently. How many times does a referee give a decision based on what they think they've seen, not what they've seen? So a player goes to how many penalties? Like Arsenal have won penalties this year from it. United, loads of teams have won penalty because a referee. You seen that's a penalty. Yeah, he's gone with that. I wouldn't mind, but there's nothing for Craig Pawson to officiate on. There was no big. There was the Luke Shaw handball, but how many fouls? Like he booked Bamford for kicking the ball away, and 2 minutes earlier, 2 minutes earlier, McTominay had the referee gave a foul. McTominay had a shot, and then he gave a free kick to Leeds, where I just honestly, and Wan-Bissaka throws. I think Helder Costa back injures him, and Pawson doesn't give a free. But anyway. That's by the by. United seem to be going well. I think they're going to splash the cash this summer because I don't envisage the Glazers ever selling United. I think Kroenke's probably closer to selling Arsenal where the club are at the moment than where United are under the Glazers. Maybe if the pressure from fans keeps going, I think they'll ride it out. I think the club is well set up at the moment for Ollie to do well as well, which is important. He's got good people around him, and they have a great squad. You look at United squad; they probably need a couple of players. They have a really good squad. I think top four for next year is going to be really interesting. I think Leicester are in a bit of a battle. Liverpool, the progression of City, the progression of Chelsea is going to really speed Liverpool into a big summer. So it'll be interesting to see that as well. It could be a good game with United Villa.
Absolutely. Let's fly through the next couple then. West Ham versus Everton. It's a 4:30 kickoff. We're going to go to you, Cian. David Moyes, Moisey boy. We've heard a lot of like Jay Lings and all this in the podcast. Are you on the West Ham bandwagon at all?
I am, yeah. And if you listen back to me when I was first on a podcast there back in September, I was completely off the West Ham bandwagon. I thought Moyes would be the first manager sacked this summer or this season. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, I look like a right mug. Because they
good honesty though, Cian. Good honesty, because I wasn't going to call it out.
Yeah, no, it is true. Also, by the way, while we're on that note, there has been people making vicious rumors saying I scored 0 points when I was last on, which is actually incorrect. I think West Ham now, they've been unbelievable at the end of the day. I think I'd love seeing them get the top four. I don't think they quite have enough. They're obviously running out of time. Chelsea are coming into form at the right time. I think there'll be goals in this game. West Ham love conceding goals, but then scoring 3 all of a sudden. So I'm going to think the same. Everyone go 2-0 up, West Ham to win 3-2.
Oh wow! I love when you start telling us how the game's going. I'm like, this is a confident punter right here. Connor, into you.
Yeah, I'm firmly on the West Ham bandwagon, as you know from last week. I actually that was one of the only scores I actually got right, though. I called the 2-1 last week. I'm going to go 2-1 again this week for West Ham. I was saying to you though that time, if I had known Big Mick was back in action, I would have fucking put it at 7-1. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Talk about, and I'll tell you, there might be some of my mates watching this. Last year, I called Mikel Antonio a barrel and said he's one of the worst players I've ever seen, and he proceeded to score against Chelsea and then score 4 goals against Norwich. So I promptly drafted him this year in FPL, and he's fucking unbelievable. He's another player. He's almost symbolic of West Ham. Him and Jesse Lingard, just the career turnarounds. But yeah, look, West Ham, good team going forward, and Everton kind of they always finish the season crap. So yeah, I'll take them to lose and throw it away the same way they did against Villa last week. I'll go West Ham 2-1.
Yeah, Key and Sean, you seem to be speaking to the people here. Shane Stanley saying Costa's out for the rest of the season after that Wan-Bissaka challenge, Sean.
Yeah, no, no foul given.
Sorry, I'm just amazed that you were able to pick out the 5 or 6 examples, because I didn't bring that up prompted or anything. You know what I mean?
Sorry,
it was like the game was nearly a month ago,
and he's supposed to be one of the best referees in England. Yeah. I must say with Everton, I think Everton, this suits them playing West Ham. They kind of need a result as well. I mean, I didn't watch their game the other day, but I saw a bit of fan reaction to it and people on Twitter, and it's the story of Everton's season, and they've got ambitious owners as well. And I think every football owner is going to be under the spotlight this year to spend money. And especially with COVID, how many of them have the money, or are they going to have to put in their own capital? But I do think Everton could get results here. Look, I've been proven wrong a little bit with West Ham. I think it would be obviously a major achievement from where they've come from last year near relegation. But I think people forget, what Slaven Bilic did for them and the Dimitri Payet year they had, the last year of the bowling ground. So I think they've just ran out of steam, or they'll be unlucky that they've come up against Chelsea if they don't get top 4. But has been an exceptional year from West Ham as well. But I think Everton, I've fancied them.
2 games ago, lads, we're nearly there. I'm going to go to you, Cian, for probably the bleakest Arsenal fixture of the season. It's Sunday, 9th of May, 7 o'clock. This Sunday, it's Arsenal at home to Sam Allardyce's West Bromwich Albion. Sell us the dream here, Cian, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's annoying is that realistically, it's gonna Arsenal gonna probably relegate West Brom here. It's just 2 teams at the end of the game shaking hands. It's just going to be depressing. I think as soon as the final whistle blows, everybody just turn the TV off, because it's just going to be the most demoralising watch for the players after. I think Arsenal will win 2-0. I think West Brom they were playing well. I think they're just going to give up. I'll always back my team, I suppose. So despite everything that happened tonight, I'm still going to go with Arsenal 2-0 win. And someone brought up Graham Potter, by the way, earlier on. I was actually thinking that recently. If I had to go for a young English manager, I wouldn't be against the Graham Potter coming in. Now, I'm not saying he'd be my first choice, but I definitely wouldn't be against it. I think he's done a really good job at Brighton and has a big future.
Yeah, James Mo, Tottenham fan, says Allardyce better than Arteta. Connor, people are on your Graham Potter bandwagon finally.
Yeah, it's about time. People need to hop on board. He's been unlucky with his finishes in the last few years. He just needs a good striker. But as far as this game goes, I suppose, look, Arsenal haven't won now in 6 games at home, which is just really depressing. And I think they scored 2 goals in the last 6 games at home as well, which again is just shocking. But look, they should have enough to beat West Brom. I'd hope anyway that Arsenal aren't fully out of steam yet, and that they should be good enough to beat this West Brom team. I think West Brom were playing well there for a few weeks, and they had something to fight for. It kind of all pissed away then in the Leicester game when they got beaten. So I'll take. I don't anticipate many goals in this one. I'll go Arsenal 1-0. 1-0 win for Arsenal.
Yeah, Sean, anything left to say in Arsenal? Feel free to have a rant.
No, not really.
I was thinking you were out of it. Yeah,
it's bad that Sean Hussey's been silenced.
It would be typical if Big Sam did win. I don't know anymore. Arsenal's home record. It's like Liverpool. It is bizarre. Everton, Liverpool, Arsenal, 3 teams where, bar last year, Arsenal have historically really strong home records, and they've fallen by the wayside this year.
Chelsea's this year as well has been terrible.
Yeah, Chelsea. It's a weird old season, and it's kind of just needs to end very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's no more to say about
having
this.
Arsenal and West Brom on a Sunday evening is not making it go any quicker.
No,
is it?
and Arsenal's record on a Sunday evening is an absolute disgrace.
Villa at home. That's the day. Actually, on a side note, the day I started doubting Arteta was the Villa home game. But anyway, still hanging on there. I think Fulham Burnley, Keane, Monday Night Football to seal your winning Premier League predictions and get you back on track. How do you see it going?
Another game where I think there's going to be relegation. I think Fulham will be relegated here. I think Burnley are going to. I'm going to back them for the win. I'm actually a massive Burnley fan. Like, people say they're like terrible to watch now. I actually quite enjoy watching them. Chris Wood is a top player, top striker. I think he's going to score a couple of goals here. I have him in draft every season for the last couple of years. I think, I just think that Burnley are always going to, like, while Sean Dyche is there, I don't think they're ever going to be in any bother in terms of actually getting relegated. They'll always be thereabouts. But I'm going to back Burnley to win 2-1 here, relegate Fulham, and I think that would be the end of Scott Parker, despite them being quite unfortunate how the season's panned out. I think if they had an extra 10 games, I would have fancied them there to come back into it. But I think they just left themselves too much to do. The start of the season was just dreadful. I remember their opening day team against Arsenal. Arsenal won 3-0 at Craven Cottage. I remember that side was one. It was like when a lot of players played that got them relegated the couple of years before that. I think it was there. I think that's what's cost them at the end, and it's unfortunate. But Scott Parker will definitely be back managing the Premier League someday.
And your mate Willian got a hat-trick of assists that day as well, Keane.
He did, yeah. I know a couple of them. I think
Shit assists as well.
It was a 5-yard pass, and then Aubameyang pops in the top corner. Like, do you know what I mean? If that's giving him an assist, then that's what Willian. That's the only way he's going to do it for us, really, isn't it?
My memory recalls he was the most transferred in player that week, or one off for week 2. Just shows your football fans are deluded as the managers. Connor, last game.
Yeah, it's funny actually. Like, I've actually agreed with everything Keane said on this podcast, except for the Arteta stuff at the very start. It's funny. Yeah, it is. It's good. Like, it's good to be aligned. Like, I really like Burnley as well. Like, I think like they daily get a budget every year of about like 10 million. And like, when you look at the team, it's just a load of like English players from lower league teams. Like, they got Tarkowski from Brentford. Like, Chris Wood came from, was a Leicester or something like that. Like, but like they've really just pulled together a team that consistently gets a decent finish. Like, they're never really right there, about to go down. Never comes down to the wire. Dyche, it really is understated the work he does. And I'm a huge fan of Chris Wood's good, but I love James Tarkowski. I was actually calling for Chelsea to try and sign him or Lewis Dunk during the summer. And I'm obviously very happy with Thiago Silva, no doubt. But I think Tarkowski's a great player as well. I think Fulham are going to get relegated too. I really do. I think they have been unlucky. I think Scott Parker, like, there's been a few last minute goals. Eddie Nketiah sinking his ship. But like, I'll take Burnley to win 2-0. I think they'll keep the clean sheet. They seem to do quite well keeping clean sheets away from home.
Yeah, Sean, maybe catch you that on the hop. Last question. Where in 5 years' time, where's Sean Dyche going to be?
Same place.
Yes, I was thinking the
same. No, I don't think he'll still be there in 5 years. I think he'll have moved on to somewhere just that step higher,
Okay, so he's higher, yeah.
I think he will. I think he will do well, because I think his reputation as, okay, he is quite rigid in his formation, but the players love him. He's a player. He's a manager. He is a manager, and I think that still holds weight. I think he will move on. I'm not sure. Maybe a club, if you probably call one out, maybe a Crystal Palace. I think he.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. They like 4-4-2, like.
Yeah, and I definitely think he can do well. Like, some of the football at times, like Burnley against Everton, were absolutely phenomenal. And I don't necessarily think he's just limited. I think he's very pragmatic. But yeah, I think he can go on to bigger and better things than Burnley. But what he's done with Burnley is savage.
Amazing.
There's a podcast episode, and it's just where will Sean Dyche be in 5 years' time? I think I'm already intrigued. Yeah, dying to get even out with opinions. But listen, it's very late in the night. Final questions for you lads. You've been great with your time. Earliest goal of the weekend, Connor, for the tiebreak.
I will go with the 9th minute. Say,
very good.
What game will it come in? Say the Arsenal game, get an early one.
I love when you get to double down on the predictions. Cian.
I will go with Patrick Bamford to score in the fourth and leads off the mark against Spuds.
You didn't let me down when I built you up out hating Spuds. And yeah, Sean, go and give us a minute and a goal score for the crack.
The 4th minute, Trossard.
I thought you were just going to repeat Keane's Bamford.
No.
That would be a good way to finish it. But unfortunately, it's good to talk, lads, as always, with Arsenal fans. Fair play to you for coming on. So Keane, Sean and Connor, of course, best of luck in the Champions League final if you're not on next week, but I'm sure you will be. So.
Good luck, Connor. All
Get
the
that thing
best.
at the end. Can't see the
Best
end.
man win.
And for those listening, at Tackling Sports social media, really appreciate you subscribing to the YouTube channel. And if just like the video and help us reach more people. And other than that, we'll chat to you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football, which all ends with, of course, Arsenal versus West Brom on Sunday at 7 o'clock. See you all.